16 through 20, okay!
It's always new. Anyway.
Let's bring it back a little bit.
Yeah.
For anyone that gets that reference.
Yeah, that's actually, if you got that one, then kudos to you. So, 16 through 20. Let's fucking talk about this shit. Indeed. First of all,
sad.
Yeah.
Fucking sad.
Yeah. Barely any drinking happened.
We got a drink. A sip. We got a fucking sip.
Yeah. The first episode, one drink, whole thing. Which was ridiculous. And also we had to change one of the rules. We changed the rule from every time they say whore to the sexual innuendo rule that we had in Trigun, just because they don't say whore anymore, so it's sad.
And there's a lot of sexual innuendos.
Word. So let's talk about 16 through 20. So episode 16 was that was the first two-parter, right?
Yeah, it started with the first two.
Yeah, exactly.
First two-piece.
Which was fuck, what was the first two-parter? Well, bye.
That's it. That's all we got.
That's all I got.
Fucking sober as a bell. I can't remember it apparently.
Seriously, what the fuck was it? Oh my god.
Okay, let's backtrack. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
The last episode was the blind chick.
Yes. The episode before that was Mugen learning to read. So the graffiti one.
Was that the one before that?
Wasn't it? Pretty sure it was.
Fuck, we should have talked about this beforehand.
We don't ever do that. So there was that episode. There was the the episode before last was the religious episode. The episode before that one was the one where Mugen learns to read.
So it's just the two-parter. What the fuck happened in the beginning?
Yeah, the first two-parter. That was the one where they separated from each other, and then they found the dude who was on fire. Yes,
Okuru. That's what it was.
There we go.
There we go.
We made it back.
We're good.
So yeah, episode 16 was the episode where they meet up with Okuru, and they also all decide to split up because
they have a fight.
Yeah, they get a little tiff.
A tiff.
Yeah, a tiff. So they get in a fight, and then they decide to split up. Because they're all like, well then, fuck all this shit. Except for Jin. Jin's kind of like, hey guys, why don't we just fucking chill out? No? Well, I guess I'll fucking head this way then. And then he ends up meeting up with this guy that he used to know from the dojo, who was like his little brother type person. They end up fighting, and then Jin, because of the fact that he hears Fu in trouble, decides to jump off of a waterfall to basically go find her. Because he still cares. So there's that. Mugen ends up...
he runs into Okuru for the first time.
Yes.
And Okuru thinks he's part of the police force that's looking for him for something. It isn't explained yet. But they end up fighting it out, and then Mugen's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then Okuru's like, alright, bye.
Yeah, he's like, oh wait, you're not the... Okay, never mind, I gotta go. And so he leaves. And then
Mugen ends up crashing on a beach that night.
Yes.
And so the police force end up finding him, thinking he's Okuru. And then it doesn't show it, which we were kind of upset because we wanted to drink more. But Mugen basically takes out all of them, and he's like, he sounds interesting. I'm gonna help you out, but stay out of my way. Kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So then they end up finding. He ends up finding him again.
Just chilling in a tree.
Yeah, exactly. Like
just chilling.
You know. I can't remember if that's still the first episode.
I feel like
that's the second.
I feel like that would have been the second part.
I don't know. We're gonna blend these two because they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they end up finding each other again, and he's like, "Listen, you made a lot of trouble for me because they thought I was you," and then they realized that it wasn't, and he was like, "And I also heard that you like killed your whole family," and then he was like, "No, I didn't kill my family. This disease killed my family," and then these assholes just tried to cover the whole thing up. So, so that's where they end, and that's also the reason why they're after this guy, is because he killed a like an official and some other people.
An official asshole.
Exactly. So that happens, and they talk it out, and then they end up fighting each other.
Mugen fighting Okuru.
Exactly, again. Mugen fighting Okuru again. All of this is after the fact that Okuru saves Fu from drowning because she falls off of a cliff and almost drowns in a river, and he basically saves her.
And then Jin ends up finding Fu at the little riverbank cave that Okuru had set up for her.
Right.
Okuru's long gone at this point when Jin finds her, but she sees someone on a cliff. She screams. Jin comes running. And the person she sees actually ended up being the first dude that Jin was fighting.
Right.
And so they duke it out on the beach again. And so Jin's like, look, I really don't want to kill you, but if this is your conviction, sorry, bro. And Jin fucking kills him
quickly. So yeah, that happens, and then they both go to find Okuru, who Okuru and Mugen's fight got interrupted by all the people who were looking for Okuru. So they've got Okuru and Mugen pinned behind a rock. Jin and Fu are watching from off in the trees, and Okuru's just like, you know what, fuck it, I give up, fine.
I'm old, I'm done, I'm sick of running, fuck this.
I'm going with you. And then, I can't remember what runs into the guy that makes him shoot him.
Oh, no, so they're there, and, like, the crows, like, fly up. And
that's what it is.
So crows fly up, and that surprises the two archers, and so they release, and so two flaming arrows stick into Okuru.
Yeah.
And basically set him on fire.
Yep.
And that all hell ensues. Yeah. Mugen's like, fuck you guys, I wanted to kill him. He jumps down, starts fucking people up. Jin jumps in to help out.
Continues fucking people up.
And then Okuru, being kind of a badass that he is, he takes one of the arrows out of him and just fucking stabs someone.
Yeah,
and kills
stabs the main guy who's coming at him. And also because of the fact that he grabbed the guy, sets the guy on fire too, which is pretty badass. And then
Mugen and Jin are just killing off everyone, and then Okuru's kind of like meandering over towards a cliff. And it kind of shows us a scene again. Like there was a prologue in the beginning of episode 16 where Mugen's like, I've never seen anyone like this. Like I know he's still alive. There's no way he died from this little thing.
Exactly.
And so that it shows that scene again as it's actually happening. And Okuru kind of just flings himself off of this cliff after he's already completely engulfed in a flame.
Engulfed in flames. So he throws himself basically back into that same river. And that ends that.
So that was 16 and 17.
Yes.
18 was kind of a funnier episode. It was a nice little lightening up.
Right. That was the language one in the graffiti. Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically, Fu finally realizes that Mugen can't read. Jin already knows this from the episode where they were reading. Yes, where they were reading the diary. He realizes that Mugen can't read, and so Fu starts giving him shit about the fact that he can't read. And this drunk dude is like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You can't read,
like, bro."
Yeah.
You okay with them calling you an idiot? Like, what are you doing? Here's an entire bottle of something.
Yeah.
And then passes out.
and then passes out. So that happens.
And then they leave him with the bill. That was funny.
Well, son of a bitch. And also, there's these guys who are graffitiing like all over the place in the town that they're in. And so Jin's like, listen, I gotta go and pay some respects to this place over here. I'll see you guys in a second.
And the thing and
yeah, exactly.
Bye.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, I'll see you guys in a second. So he heads off, and
he ends up at the dojo, and he's just kind of sitting on the porch outside, waiting patiently, and it's run down. It's
covered
in
in graffiti too.
And so these little gang thug people like come around the corner, and they're like, "Yo, old man, get the fuck out!" And so they end up charging him and trying to attack him, and Jin's like, you guys are dumb, and attacks all of them.
Beats their ass.
So he's like, so where's the master for this dojo? And they're like, oh, if you mean the bosses, they're in town. And so scene skips over to there, where Fu is... before that, Mugen gets captured by the drunk dude before.
Yes.
Takes him to his little hut, but that's a little bit later.
Yeah.
So Fu's on her own.
Correct.
And so she ends up in this town, in the middle of town, and there's a skirmish going on where the two bosses, which end up being twin brothers, are fighting it out for who's actually the boss of the territory, kind of a thing.
Yep.
And then she opens her mouth, saying that they look the same, and then they get all mad, and they look over her, they're like, I want it.
Yep, that girl cute, quote unquote. And
come on, let me get your number.
Oh, God. So that happens, and then, and then they basically, they meet up with Jin, back at the dojo. And then Jin's like, listen, what in the fuck are you guys doing? Why is it that you haven't taken up swords like your dad would want you to?
Yeah, and Jin knows who they are. It's like the only connection that they had.
And then they're like, well, we don't really like swords and shit. We are more into graffiti. Like, that's just kind of
that's our niche.
Yeah, that's the way we live our life, like our dad lived his life by the sword. And so he's like, well, then why don't you guys settle this with graffiti? And they're like,
okay. And so they're thinking about, their mentality is whoever can tag the most dangerous place and get away with it is the
winner.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And so they asked Jin, can you be the judge for us doing this? And Jin accepts because he made a promise with their dad way back when, saying that if anything were to happen to him, he would look after the sons.
Yeah. So he does that. They end up tagging like the entire town up, trying to be like, say that one is better than the other.
Originally, yes, but for their duel, it was just that one big ass building.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is they were each going around tagging a bunch of different places up until remember the montage, and then at the end of the montage they like tagged up a bunch of police officers because they were trying to tag the most dangerous thing until it finally got to a point where they were like, well, what the fuck haven't you guys tagged yet? And then they're like, the fucking castle. So while this is all going on, Mugen learns to read.
This guy fucking he's like, you should know how to read, so I'm gonna teach you how to read. And then there's a couple different scenes where Mugen's like, fuck this, it's too hard. And it's like, oh, this is first grade reading, like, you gonna give up? And then he's like, fuck you. And he's like, fuck you too, read. And it's just like...
Yeah. So he angrily learns to read. And then they start... He's like, what the hell is this shit that's going on? And they're like, it's basically a competition of words. And he's like, ooh, words, I know those now. And so... The two brothers are basically graffiti battling their way up to the top of this castle because they know that the person who tags the very top of the castle is the winner. And right as they both make it to the top, Mugen ends up tagging the top of the castle and bolting off without either of them knowing who he is because they haven't met him yet.
Nope. So he's like, I'm number one! And he jumps into the river.
Yes. So they both decide, yeah, well... whatever, and then they end up becoming these giant fashion moguls because this one dude and his posse show up and he's like, hey, we love everything you do, how about you do it for clothing? And so they do, and that's basically the end of that episode.
Yeah, and then Mugen goes a little nuts and labels everything,
right, because now that he knows words, he just writes all over everybody's stuff. So that's that episode. That was what, 18? That was 18. Yeah. So 19
was a religious episode.
Yes.
And thank God we didn't have our old Trigun rule for religious references.
Oh my God. That would have been a horrible... Granted, it would have made up for all the non-drinking we did up until that point.
True story. But the episode starts with the guys ditching Fu.
Yeah.
And they're walking down this dirt path, and there's a huge line next to them, and they're like, what the fuck's up with this line? And so apparently it was a checkpoint for these people trying to figure out who were like secret Christians in the society, and they were trying to get them out, I guess.
Or something like that. So I really don't know why.
They had a little metal plate of like Jesus on a cross on the floor, and to get past the checkpoint, they just had to step on it and move on.
Right.
And so Mugen and Jin walk up to her, and they're like, what the hell is this? And they explain it to him, and they say, well, just step on it. And because they told him what to do, Mugen's like, well, fuck you, don't tell me what to do.
On it. Yeah.
And then Jin's like, well, then don't step on it. And Mugen's like, normally that would work.
Yeah.
However
today, nay. So
and then this ugly motherfucker.
Oh God, the ugly guy with the fucking reverse cross-eyed eyes. Not okay. So yeah, he shows up. He's supposed to be like this what's the word? This descendant of this holy person, and so while all of this is going on, Fu is at this abandoned shack, and this woman like shows up who's being chased by these two guys. So she hides the woman out, and they're like, hey, where that bitch at? And she's like, I don't know what bitch you're talking about. So they leave.
She lets the woman out. They're talking, trying to figure it out. And then they come back, and they're like, yeah, that's what we thought.
I knew it. So
and then they knock the bitch out.
Yeah, and then they knock Fu out pretty easily. So they do that, and they take the woman away. They take her over to this, like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Religious place that the guy is running because... there's this underground gun trade that's going on, And he's basically, the religious guy has tricked all of these people into making these guns because there isn't enough room in heaven anymore.
It's overcrowded, and so the only way for them to get in is basically a competition. Whoever can make the most guns gets a pass to get into heaven.
Yeah. So they're all making guns for him, and he's basically just bullshitting them for money. And so
while this is going on, Fu... How does Fu get captured in there?
Oh, right. Here's what happens. So the woman gets captured and taken back to the head religious guy because he killed her father, who was the original gunsmith, and he wanted to take her as his bride. Fu ends up infiltrating the whole place because they go looking for her in the forest, and they come across this giant village, and they're like, yeah, we have no idea who you're talking about, but you guys can come and sleep at my house if you want to. And they're like, sure, we'll do that. So they go and fall asleep, except for Fu wakes up and sees that like everybody in the village is leaving and going into this cave for no reason at all in the middle of the night. So she's like, well, I'm gonna go find out why, because she's stupid. And so she just goes fucking waltzing in to this place, and it's just like, oh hey, I know those people. And all of this shit, and then the two guys that were chasing the woman previously are like, hey, we fucking know you. What are you doing here? So she gets captured that way. And while she's in jail, she sends a note with the squirrel off back to Jin and Mugen to be like, hey, help.
And then Mugen's like, well, where the fuck did we go? Where are you? And
yeah,
all
exactly.
it said was help.
All it said was help me. So
they go searching to try and find any leads, and so they end up finding some of the leaders, I guess, and so they're talking about this transaction that's like illicit gun trading and blah, 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 blah.
Right. So
Jin and Mugen find out it's a giant hoax, nothing is real, everything is under the table, illegal stuff, and so they're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And so they kill a couple people, and then they're like, well, obviously you kind of know where our friend is, and you're going to take us to her. How about that? So they take them down into the cavern, and they're just kind of waltzing down the aisle.
Yes.
And so the main religious guy is like, "Oh, who the fuck are you?"
Well, yeah, and the reason why they're there is because he basically tells the girl, "Listen, you have until the end of the night, and you're either gonna marry me or you're gonna die." And so he takes her up to the altar to be like, "Okay, it's about time that you marry me." And Fu's like, "Nah, bitch, don't do it." And so she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna marry you." And then he's like, well, then, bitch, I'm gonna shoot you in the face. But then that's when Mugen and Jin show up with with the other guy who's like, dude, they know everything that's going on. And the religious guy's like, why the fuck did you say that in front of everybody here?
The whole congregation now knows everything's fake. Yep. And he's trying to cover it up. You're like, they're lying. It's slander. Don't believe them.
Shoot them.
Nose falls off. Michael Jackson. Beard falls off.
Yeah. And the whole kerfuffle. All of his stuff falls off after the cross almost falls on him. And so they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh my god, this motherfucker's Japanese. And he's like, yeah, but so
I still helped, right?
Yeah. And then he ends up trying to make his way out by blasting his way out, but the gun that he uses is faulty.
It misfires and blows him up.
Blows his face off. So that's the end of that guy, and everything is fine. You also find out that the samurai who smells of sunflowers is Fu's father, and that he was one of the Christian people, and they, the woman that they were harboring actually knew him and was like, yeah, he was at this place last time I knew him.
So they now have a new location that they're heading to. We have a name.
Word. Oh yeah, what was it?
Saizo. Something. Yeah, I was going to say Saizo. So we have a name, Saizo. It's Fu's father. Mm-hmm. He still smells of sunflowers, apparently.
Yeah.
And so off they go.
Yep.
So the final episode for this, episode 20.
Yep.
They end up at a restaurant. Not karaoke, but kind of tea house restaurant kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so there's a blind performer performing on stage. They're sitting at the bar. Oh, it's raining outside. And so the old man comes up and Fu is standing outside and he's like, "Oh, come inside, get out of the rain." And she's like, "Well, we're broke. Sorry." He's like, "Oh no, it's fine. Just come in, like tell us stories. We get wanderers all the time. Like feel free, come in."
Chill out.
And then Mugen and Jin are like, oh, thanks, bye.
Yep. Oh, fucking cool.
So they go in there, and there's a blind performer, and she does her thing, and everyone loves her. And so she comes up and sits next to the bar. She sits next to Mugen, and he's like, hello.
Hello, blind lady.
Yeah, and so...
I'm looking for comments. Keep talking.
Got that. So, Mugen tries to put the moves on her, but then Jin and Fu are like, fuck off, like, leave her alone, she's blind. And then these two guys come up to her and are trying to harass her more, and so Mugen ends up fucking kicking their asses and kicking them out.
Yep.
And so she ends up traveling with them. They start talking about what they're doing, and so she's like, well, I'm heading that way too, would you mind traveling together, and I'll pay for room and board, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So they go through this whole excursion. They're traveling the lands. She's paying for everything. And so they go through a couple different spots, and they keep getting paid up the wazoo.
Right.
But they end up at a bathhouse, and so they have two separate rooms, one for the guys, one for the girls. And in one part of the episode, Sarah, the blind chick's name, ends up taking a bath, and Mugen jumps in. And so they end up talking just kind of about everything, life, heavy shit.
Shooting the shit.
You know. And then Fu almost comes out, and she's like, oh my god, why are you here? You're naked. I'm naked. This isn't okay.
And he's like, bitch, you ain't got nothing to look at.
Right.
Yeah.
So then Sarah and Fu start talking about things, and Sarah's like, well, what does he look like? Blah, blah, blah. Kind of giving you a sense that she might actually be into him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode progresses, and as they're traveling along, Sarah ends up asking a favor of Fu while they're on the road, which you later find out is that Sarah asks Fu to give her one of the two, either Jin or Mugen, it doesn't matter to her.
Yes.
To help her find her son.
Yes.
Is what the story was.
Yes.
And so they're sitting at dinner one night, and Fu decides that she wants to give her Jin because she thought Jin would say no. She knew Mugen would say yes because he's totally into her and just wants her.
Yep.
But then Jin just says, okay.
Yeah, he's like, all right, cool, peace. And then she gets mad about the fact, or sad about the fact that he said yes. So
the two groups go their separate ways.
Yep. And then after that happens, you find out that Sarah is actually an assassin.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. And so she's actually out to kill Jin, which makes the previous portion where she wants to know what Mugen looks like makes sense. Because she doesn't actually know. She knows what the person she's supposed to kill is supposed to look like, but she doesn't know which one of them it is.
I also wonder if that really matters, because she tells Fu, like, it doesn't matter which one. So I wonder if she was hired to kill both of them.
Perhaps.
But I think her asking what Mugen looks like was actually for her own personal gain, kind of a thing. Like, she might actually be into him.
Maybe.
Because that totally is what I got out of it. Is like, give me either Jin or Mugen, it doesn't matter. So she's hired to kill both of them. She just wants it one-on-one, kind of a thing.
Okay, I can see that. So yeah, she's this crazy assassin. She's got this fucking spear thing. And she's like, yeah, I gotta kill you, and I'm sorry about that.
I really don't want to, but sorry, bro.
That's just kind of what happens. So, and that's basically where the episode ends.
They're fighting on a bridge. Shit's going down. And yeah, we ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So
hanging on a cliff.
Bridge.
Boom.
Bridge hanger?
Bridge. Yeah, bridge hanger.
Bridge hanger?
We'll call it a bridge hanger. So yeah, so that's the end of episode 20. Mm-hmm. And next episode is the last one, because we're going to do 21. Yep, 21 through 26. That's all of them. We have no comments from the last one. Fucking leave us comments.
Although it did, we did post it like a day or two ago. It's still fairly early.
That's true. It's still fresh. We just had time to make this one, so we decided to do it quickly. But yeah, so the next episode will be the ending, episode 21 through 26.
So we're coming to an end of Samurai Champloo, which means we got a new anime coming up.
Yep, and we need a new fucking one to watch.
So I know in one of the first comments, I think it was on the first episode of the Samurai Champloo, someone, was it Wolf Children, I think was the recommendation. So I've never heard of it. I don't know if you have.
I've never heard of it either, but we're gonna go through and take a look and
kind of see how many episodes it is, where we can find it, if we can find it, if it's easily accessible.
Yep.
But if not, there are plenty of other animes out there that we're itching to hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll kind of see where we go from here.
Yep. And at the end of the next episode, you will know what our next anime is.
Indeed.
So, until then, we'll see.
Before we go.
Blah!
Before we go. Today is the 22nd?
Yes.
So we're filming on the 22nd. Depending when this gets posted, on behalf of Brian and myself, I want to wish you all Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and any other holiday that you might be celebrating. We appreciate you and your views, and we want to let you know that we're here for you. Happy holidays, everybody.
And also, Hanukkah's already ended, but that's okay. Bye! Chanukah!
What?
Fuck it.